the next episode of the backstory on marketing and AI. And of course, if you haven't already done so, definitely go to prorelevant.com and sign up for more of these episodes and podcasts. As I've mentioned before, I am the author of the upcoming new book, The AI Marketing Machine, and you can find out more information on that at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. Today, I'm interviewing Adrienne Wilkerson, and she is with Beacon Media and Marketing. And before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about her. She has a wide-ranging experience in entrepreneurship, AI integration, and digital marketing for small businesses. Her achievements include being an Inc. 5000 winner several times, and then really showcasing her drive and impact on the industry. Wow, that's fantastic. Inc. 5000 winner a couple, not only once, but a couple of times. That is
Yeah.
just wonderful. Congratulations
Thank
to
you.
you, and so glad to have you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is your backstory on AI and marketing?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting to watch this newest iteration of evolution in marketing because when I first launched Beacon Media and Marketing in 2012 in Alaska, that was the beginning of the whole digital marketing era. That was 2012. That was only 13 years ago. And we were massively disrupting the traditional advertising world there. Now, 13 years later, we're seeing an even bigger disruption happening with AI. So I think it's really exciting. It's not my first rodeo, if you will, on massive disruption. So it's very interesting to me how many of the agencies are really struggling with this that came along later and didn't kind of have to cut their teeth, if you will, on the first disruption, and how hard and how absolutely 100% different digital marketing was from traditional marketing. There were core principles that stayed. You have to have an ideal client profile, you have to understand how to connect with them. And those are still true today, whether we're using AI tools or whatever tools we're using. But AI is definitely speeding up the evolution of marketing and how fast we're able to turn content around. And I think one of the biggest disruptions that I'm really excited about is just the amount of research information AI can take in and synthesize and help us draw good conclusions out of. I mean, it would take my team hours across multiple platforms to try to, collect the data, collate the data, extrapolate what does this mean for our client? How do we evolve our marketing plans, our campaigns to, based on this new data? And so that AI is really helping our team be able to process a lot more data faster and really pick up on patterns that maybe we wouldn't have been able to pick up on before just because of the sheer volume of data that we would have to collate and all the human error options that happen when you're pulling data from so many different platforms and all that kind of thing. So I feel like we're in a much better position to help our clients and bring more value to them because of AI's ability to again process a much more significant amount of information than we as humans could do in a similar period of time.
Well, and plus the interface is so nice. You know, you have a natural
Mm-hmm.
language interface that you can query that data without having to try and figure out, well, how do I word this or how do I search through this?
Yeah,
And if you get it wrong the first time, you can iterate and refine and iterate and refine. So it really
so
makes it
true.
work out pretty well. So tell us
Mm-hmm.
about Beacon Media and Marketing.
Yeah, so we started in 2012 back in Anchorage, Alaska. I started my first company in 2001. It was a graphic design branding website company. And as time went on, I watched Facebook show up and all these social media things. And it's like, okay, graphic design as we've always done it is going to disappear. There's going to always be a place for quality design, but it's evolving, it's changing. And so I was watching this happen. And Alaska's, 18 to 24 months behind the rest of the United States on a good day, unless we're talking oil technology, and then it's a little different. So I was watching this happen, and nobody in Alaska was really, I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people were paying attention. A lot of the traditional agencies believed it was a fad, believe it was going to come and go. And so I ended up connecting with another lady named Jennifer Christensen, who was doing social media marketing. She was one of the few that was really seeing these trends and really seeing where it was going. And so we merged companies in 2012 and essentially created the first digital marketing full service agency in Alaska. So it was a wild ride. And then in 2017, we expanded outside of Alaska and started working with clients all over the country and started our expanding our team outside of Alaska. And 2019, right before COVID, so end of 2019, we decided to niche down into the mental and behavioral health industries, which then COVID hit, and there was an explosion of awareness around mental health issues and people really seeking help. A little harder to hide from some of the things when you're kind of faced with it and stuck with yourself in your own apartment or home. And so we saw an explosion in that industry. So it was one of those kind of things of the opportunity just happened at the right time, right decision, right time. And so that was really when our company started exploding. So first part of 2020 was very scary, like most people experienced. We lost a third of our clients in 1 month as people were not knowing what was going to happen and shutting down. And um, but then we kind of were able to come back from that. Our team really rallied. So uh, yeah, so now that's our primary focus is counseling, addiction recovery. We do a lot in trauma therapy, ABA therapy, which is for primarily for people struggling with autism. We do a lot of eating disorder, anxiety, those kind of specialties within the mental and behavioral health industries. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's
yeah, it's been fun.
yeah, well, that's amazing. It's so important to focus, and when you focus like that, it's so much easier to make, to have really really great work, and then leverage that
Mm-hmm.
great work to get better. So one of the challenges, talking about AI, and certainly in your specialty, is, when you take AI and you just let it rip on whatever you're trying to do, it kind of loses something. And to me, and I
Mm-hmm.
think to you as well, it loses that humanity. So
Right.
how do you kind of build that humanity back in?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. One of the ways to do that is to really be choosy about the software that you're using. So, it's really hard. You can train some of the paid versions of some like ChatGPT and Perplexity and that sort of thing. But there's some companies that have come out that are taking it a few steps deeper. So Jasper's a really good example, Jasper.ai. So they've layered essentially a marketing mindset on top of ChatGPT, OpenAI, all of those different things. So you can train Jasper with your own writing that's not been generated by AI. You can really focus down the
Hmm.
tone of how you're wanting to say this and who your target audience is. They've got a really robust system in there to build out your target audience. And that's become a really great tool for us because it is pulling in, we can program it with the tone that our clients want to communicate to their ideal client with. And we can build in their client profiles. And so using a tool like that, and it's not the only one out there. It's just one of the first ones to really focus in the marketing realm, which is really nice. So that ends up getting our content a lot further along before we come in and humanize it the rest of the way. So if we're using a general program like Perplexity or ChatGPT, it might get your content 60% there. And then you do really have to read through it every line, not skimming it, but actually reading through it because AI is getting better, but it won't phrase things the way you phrase it unless you're using something that you can train that way. So sometimes the sentence structure just isn't the way we would have a normal conversation. So that's one of the things to look when you're editing an AI generated document is the sentence structure, is the way that the words are put together, is that actually the way we would talk or write to each other? So that's the first like high level that I tell people, like read every line is and read it out loud sometimes, because sometimes you're not going to catch that it's kind of janky until you read it out loud and you're like, okay, that does not sound right. Especially if it's like, 1600 words and you're halfway through and our brains tend to fill things in. So sometimes reading it out loud is the best way to catch stuff that doesn't sound quite right. Um, and then putting in your own experiences. So putting in examples of real life stuff that you've experienced or somebody else in your company has experienced. So kind of that's a great way to put in that personal touch. Statistics don't sound personal, but actually putting in real statistics is another good way to kind of humanize it more because you're tying it back to real data as opposed to something that maybe AI has construed. And AI can get really weird sometimes about the data that it pulls. So I always tell people run it through another AI program and tell it to fact check it. So Perplexity is a great one to fact check stuff because they cite all their sources. So it makes it really easy to verify the sources that the other AI has used. Because a lot of them, you have to ask them, where did you get that data? Where do you get that statistic? Where are you coming up with that conclusion? Um, and sometimes the AI can't tell you, which is always scary. Well, we found it across multiple things, and you're going, okay, that's not helpful. Um, so those are kind of some of the just higher level things that we do as a team to make sure that our content is quality, it's communicating the right information, and it's doing it in a conversational way. And you can tell AI, I want this to have a conversational tone, and it'll do a decent job, but it's still going to have some funky stuff in it, especially if you're using a free version of any of the AI platforms.
Yeah. Well, and that humanizing, and there are some scripts or prompts that I've seen that will
Mm-hmm.
help to humanize it and get rid of the M dashes and get rid of some of the other kind of standard stuff. But
Yeah.
and I think it's interesting too to see how well, one of the challenges that AI has is that unless you really have the sources and if you really can fact check those sources,
Mm-hmm.
they can, it can go off the rails and just hallucinate, and who knows where it's getting that answer from. And if you're trying to
Right.
write something that's very specific and then of course represents your clients in exactly the right way, you have to get,
Yeah.
both of those pieces right. And it takes that human in the middle to really make sure that that is
Hmm.
that is that is correct.
Absolutely. Yeah. I tell a lot of people like AI is kind of like a 2-year old. It believes everything it reads. So anything it sees on the internet, it believes. It can't differentiate. We'll read something, we're just like, really? It can't tell from The Onion, which is a website that does a lot of fun, stuff on it, but it doesn't claim to be factual. And it's not. It's usually a joke or satire. AI can't tell the difference between that and CNN.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
So,
even
yeah.
and even the articles are wrong. So, and
Hmm.
especially, sometimes in the trade, you get a trade article and it'll be cited by ChatGPT or Perplexity, and it'll
Hmm.
and that article is wrong. And you have to
Right.
make sure that not only is ChatGPT or the AI actually interpreting what it found, but then you have to make
Right.
sure that what it found is actually correct as well, because quite often it could get, some of the
Hmm.
things or the nuances off that may not, in your case, then represent what your client is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very
And then
true.
especially, to your other point earlier was if companies are using AI to develop their content and they're not really spending time humanizing it and putting the humanity back in and the facts back in, then all of a sudden, and especially now, then AI is going out to that writing and then saying, well, that must be correct. And so
Mm-hmm.
therefore,
Mm-hmm.
let me use it. And then now there's this like this cyclical feedback that's
Mm-hmm.
maybe taking things wrong and continuing to perpetuate that.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And it was happening even before AI. We have a policy internally that any fact that we state in a blog, whether it's for our company or clients, has to be verifiable in three independent sources. Because what happens even before AI, and like you said, it's getting perpetuated at an incredible rate right now. But even before, you'd get a fact in an article and you trace it back, and you think you have three independent sources, but turns out they're all sourcing the same article for their facts, which could be right or could not be right. And so sometimes you're down the rabbit trail for hours trying to find what was the original article that was sourced. Can I verify that fact in two other independent articles that aren't just quoting that same article again? So it was challenging even before. And to your point, AI is really making that even more problematic at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I have another story there, but I'm going to leave that for the moment so we can kind of move on to something else. One of the biggest challenges, though, is really, and we kind of say this, religiously, is the customer has to be at the center of everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
And if we
Right.
don't have the customer there and how they make purchase decisions, how they build the brand in their own minds and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
we'll never get our marketing right. And so one of the
Right.
things that's kind of interesting is can you use or how do you use, or is it even possible to use AI to help read the minds of your customers?
I would say yes and no to that question. So I believe AI can gather a lot of data out there on your potential consumers' behavior. They can spot patterns, they can spot buying trends. And, we use it a lot to try to track ebbs and flows in buying behavior around seasonality. For example, we've tracked some of our clients. If we get a 35% jump in signups when we're talking about alcohol addiction or alcohol addiction problems up to 5 weeks before a holiday.
Hmm.
Now, if we do it more like 3 weeks before a holiday, we don't get as much of an uptick. So we can use AI to collate and find those patterns in those behaviors that allow us to provide more value to our clients and go, look, if we start at 5 weeks ahead, this is what we're going to get a lot better sign up rate for your group therapy practice, post holiday, or some of
Mhm.
them even signing up leading into the holidays so they're not falling off the wagon during the holidays.
Hmm.
So it does help us spot patterns. The part that is difficult, especially in our industry with mental and behavioral health, is we have a lot of HIPAA compliance issues that we need to be very respectful of. So we need to be very careful that AI is not accessing actual personal information, where it's only spotting trends in similar people type. We're not tracking IP addresses, we're not tracking emails, we're not tracking names associated with symptoms. We're tracking single white female in their 30s, kind of, but not actual personal information. And so that's a very fine line that we walk with our clients because of the privacy information and HIPAA issues, which are really good. They need to be in place. So, it's something we're very happy to walk, but it is an interesting extra layer in the mental and behavioral health fields that we don't deal with when we're working with our plumbing clients or our roofing clients, for example.
Yeah, very different. And one of the things that run because we've done some interesting things with one of our healthcare clients is that
Mm-hmm.
people will put some HIPAA related information into their reviews. and to
Right?
filter that out and make sure that you don't
Yeah,
use that. And it's it's tough. It's very tough.
it is. And they'll put it in their contact forms as well, which is so we have to do extra layers to make sure that for example, that information isn't coming into the marketing agency, it's staying in the
Mm,
client's world, and that we're not inadvertently viewing somebody else's HIPAA protected information.
yeah, 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 absolutely. So now, and it's pretty obvious that the way that you're working now versus, let's say, 3 years ago or 2 years ago, pre pre AI, is very different. And it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you have enabled your teams fully to take advantage of AI. So how
Mm-hmm.
has that changed the way you work and the way your customers are working, using you as part of their way to reach their own customers?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I believe it's improved the quality of what we're putting out, because of some of the ways that we've chosen to work with it, meaning we're using it to enhance what we're already doing. Not to sound like a broken record, but we choose and be very intentional about not advocating our thought leadership to AI, but really, again, using it as an assist. And so we've woven that principle into all the AI that we evaluate. We have a whole internal tech team, and we have members from every department within the company that participate in that tech team. And so anybody can make a recommendation, but we vet that very carefully. It goes through the whole tech team. It has a very specific process that it has to go through, and it's all evaluated from that lens. Will this enhance what we already do as professionals? Will this make us better at our job? Will this allow us to bring more value to the client? If so, then let's see how we can make it work for us, kind of a thing. So that has really, I think, our whole way that we approach AI is built on that. And I think that has really enabled us to be better at what we do, as opposed to, dare I say, lazy and just
Mm,
letting AI do it for us, which, like I said before, is always a temptation, but that I think is what's leading to a lot of mistrust, with for AI. And we've had conversations with clients like, well, why should I still pay you? Why can't my front desk person use Chat GPT and write blogs? And our response is usually, if you want to give it a try, go for it. We understand. Like, we can tell you why, but you probably need to experience it yourself. And most of them have all come back, because
mm,
what they get out of AI is dependent on what they put in. And so that's really how we're strategically positioning ourselves as an agency. Is it's not that you're paying us for our the amount of hours we're putting into producing the work. You're paying us for our expertise, so that what comes out brings you more value than if your poor front desk person has to do this in between checking clients in and answering the phone and handling billing and all of the things that your staff is already doing. Like, so it's very much of a, let us partner with you and let's come alongside you. And just like a therapist, you want them to have experience, you want them to have an education, you want them to be certified in what they're doing. Similar, like, let us be the expert in this area. You're the expert in, ABA therapy or anxiety treatments. Just like you're the expert there, we're the expert here. So that's a lot of how we're kind of navigating that very tricky road of AI. And like you said, our world is very different now than it was even 12 months ago.
yeah, yeah, and there's definitely a lot of pressure to, that make versus buy decision is, hey, I could have somebody on my staff do it, and what do I need you for? And yet,
Right.
like you said, they're in the middle of 85 other interruptions, and it's really hard to keep that quality up because that's their brand.
Mm-hmm.
That is the brand
Right.
that, and if you don't, work on maintaining the quality of that brand through every message that you put out there, then that's going to
Mm-hmm.
degrade your overall. position in the marketplace. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah. I'd love to keep going, but unfortunately, we're about towards the end of the time. I did have one last
Okay.
question for
Yeah.
you, though. And AI has changed everything, and will continue to
Hmm.
change everything for quite a while now. So, what advice would you give a new up and coming marketer as they're trying to break into marketing? How do you think that they can best achieve that?
At this point, you have to be fluent in AI. It's just there's no way around it. And I think anybody coming into marketing right now has a very unique opportunity because you can leverage AI to speed up your learning process. Whereas before, you know, you might be stumbling around learning how to research. Now you need to know how to prompt AI well. So, understanding how AI can help you do your job better and coming at it from that viewpoint, I think is one of the most powerful pieces to understand going into marketing and really understanding it's your expertise and your marketing mindset that you're selling, not how long it takes you to write a blog. So, it's a shift in mindset from I'm a doer to I'm a strategist. And so coming into marketing, that didn't used to be the case for people, especially coming in new. It's like, how well can I write? How fast can I turn these blogs around just to keep using blogs? But it could be social media posts or whatnot. But now you have to think of yourself as a strategist and you have to strategically understand how to use AI in your daily job. And so it's a mindset shift more than anything.
Yeah, yeah, that is definitely true. And I think it's tough. I think they are
Mm-hmm.
definitely they have to be just like you, where you're with your business, you have focused in and being the best on this
Mm-hmm.
very narrowly defined segment. And the same thing for a new marketer. Now you can't expect them to have good vertical experience, but they definitely need to have the skills that they can then
Mm-hmm.
say, yes, I can turn this around and I can turn it around with quality. And here's my
Right.
portfolio of my proof of how good I'm
Yeah.
able to do that
Mm-hmm.
turnaround.
Yeah, that's very well said. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Adrian, thank you. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate some of your insights, and I really like the way that you've structured your business, and also the adding the humanity into AI, adding it back
Yeah.
in where it was just taken out. And so
Hmm.
fantastic. So where can
Yeah.
people reach you and learn more about you and your company?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We're on every social media channel at Beacon MM. You can find us there. You can also find us online at beaconmm.com. And I actually have a book out, Digital Marketing for Mental Health, and you can find that on Amazon or on our website. And it's appropriately titled Digital Marketing for Mental Health. But yeah, we'd love any feedback or and talk to anybody, even if it's just to shoot the breeze on what's going on in marketing. So thank you so much, Guy.
Yeah, fantastic, Adrian. So that was beaconmm.com, beaconmm.com. Thank you for that.
Yes.
And for the audience, please stay tuned for many other videos in this series on the backstory of marketing and AI. And please visit
Mhm.
marketingmachine.prorelevant.com and learn more, find out more information about my upcoming book. Adrian, thank you so much. This has really been wonderful.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.